So there's this meme. I'm sure you've seen it. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Well, apparently we think about it a lot. Alarmingly so. Many of us think about the Roman Empire instead of going to therapy. To me, talking about the Roman Empire is therapeutic. But here is the thing. Before you were even sentient, before any of us existed, Rome was thinking about us all. Every time you check your calendar, drive on a paved road, or walk through a city with a grid layout, you're not just thinking about Rome, you're living inside a Roman's head. Not metaphorically, literally. The question is not, how often do you think about Rome? The question is, how often did Rome think about us? Here's the thing you might not have heard about Rome. Rome was obsessed with the future, with legacy, immortality through reputation. While modern politicians can't think past the next election cycle, nor can tech CEOs think past the next quarter, Roman generals and soldiers were fighting on battlefields so that their name would be talked about by people 2,000 years later. And it worked. We're talking about them right now. So you might ask, why was Rome like this? Why were they so thirsty for eternal fame? It's because they grew up in it. They were molded by it. They marinated in legacy culture from birth. Picture this, if you will. You're a Roman child, and in your family's home, there is an entire room, a very large room dedicated to your dead relatives and ancestors. And this isn't some cute photo wall with paintings of them up on the wall. This is marble busts, complete with death masks. These death masks are literally wax masks cast from your dead relatives to perfectly replicate their face. These masks were displayed on shelves like some kind of haunted Hall of Fame. Underneath each one of your dead relatives' busts, there was a bronze plaque detailing everything they accomplished, everything worthwhile at least. You as a Roman child were not allowed into this room until your father deemed you worthy. And when in there, he's gonna point at your great-grandfather Marcus and be like, you see him? He died claiming a hill in the Samnite War, saving over 400 men. What have you been up to lately? Imagine growing up in that house. It's a museum to gaslighting you to feel inadequate your entire life. This is like in modern times if your suburban home had a wing dedicated to your ancestors' LinkedIn profile. Oh, looks here like your grandfather had 847 endorsements for conquering Gaul, while you have 7 for Microsoft Excel. Care to explain yourself? But Rome's legacy culture is even deeper than the haunted Hall of Fame. Romans read the same stories over and over. Livy, Plutarch, the Odyssey, and many other histories. And every one of the stories had the same moral. Be so awesome that historians cannot stop talking about you. We have the story of Horatius defending a bridge by himself against an entire army. What an absolute legend. Then we have Cincinnatus. He left his farm and saved Rome, then went back to his farm, relinquishing power. Even bigger legend, massive legend, because refusing glory is such a power move. They read these stories the way we binge Marvel movies, but instead of made up superheroes, every one of those heroes was a real person, and you were led to believe you could be the next hero in those stories. So yeah, Romans were a little bit obsessed with legacy because their entire culture was a legacy hype machine. From birth, they were told, you're not really alive until you're worth writing down. So with that context out of the way, let's talk about the Roman roads, the famous Roman roads. You think the Romans built 250,000 miles of roads for their silly little sandals to walk on? No, they knew they were shaping continents with their roads. The most prosperous cities in Europe are directly correlated to where the Roman roads were. Romans knew how important roads were, and they built them to last. One of the most famous examples of a Roman road is the Appian Way. It was built in 312 BC, and it's still there. It's still functional. You can walk on this road. This road is ready to have trade goods be brought down it today. So while on your daily commute, your roads are falling apart, destroying your car, even though the Department of Transportation did a patch job last summer, think about those Roman roads. Now, I'm not saying that the Department of Transportation is worse at their jobs than some dead Romans. Well, actually, that's exactly what I'm saying. After Rome fell, Europe struggled to make roads of Roman quality for over 1,000 years. Medieval people looked at Roman roads and thought they were built using magic, or that giants built them. Now let's talk about soldiers. Roman soldiers weren't just fighting for Rome. They were fighting for fame, for glory, for honor, and more importantly, for their names to be written down in the history books. A Roman soldier's greatest fear was not death, not pain. It was not being remembered. These guys would volunteer for suicide missions. First man on the wall, first through the breach, or to be in the group that makes first contact with the enemy on the battlefield. Because if you survived, you were famous, and your name went down in the records for all of history. One award for being the first on the wall was the Mirialis Corona, or the Wall Crown, and they had different tiers depending on what kind of settlement you were on the wall first of. Look at these things. That's like prestige in a video game, but this crown actually means something. And most importantly, 2,000 years later, some guy on YouTube is gonna talk about you. Roman soldiers were playing a game where the scoreboard wouldn't be checked for over 2 millennia. Talk about unhinged. And then there's the architecture, the Pantheon, the Colosseum, the Roman aqueducts. These aren't just buildings, they are arguments. They're Romans standing in 100 AD screaming at us 2,000 years removed, saying, "Try and forget us now, losers." The Pantheon was built in 126 AD, and it is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. For decades, researchers thought Roman concrete's recipe was lost. It wasn't until 2023 when researchers at MIT discovered the recipe. Now, I'm no expert on concrete, but apparently this concrete was self-healing, allowing the lime to fill in cracks formed by the passage of time. How is that even possible? Maybe the Romans did use magic to build their stuff. And you know what? Your Instagram picture of you at the Colosseum, that's participating in Rome's 2,000-year plan. You're complicit in their scheme to be remembered. Romans are playing you like a liar. Okay. I know what you're thinking. How deep does this go? How ingrained in my mind is Rome? Well, just check your calendar. July, named after Julius Caesar. August, that's Augustus Caesar. They wanted their names in the calendar. We're using a 2,000-year-old calendar that doesn't even make sense anymore because the Romans colonized time itself just to make sure we do not forget who they are. But here's where it gets really weird. Here's the twist ending. Can I get a show of hands in the comments below? How many of you recognize this man? Yeah. That's Marcus Aurelius, Rome's philosopher king. Marcus Aurelius spent his entire time as emperor writing in his journal, Meditations, not worrying about legacy. Here he writes, "Soon you'll be ashes or bone, a mere name at most, and even that is just a sound, an echo." Talk about metal. These were his private notes to himself, never intended for publication, a personal diary of some sorts. And then he died. Now we don't need to talk about his son, that breaks my heart. But we still talk about Marcus Aurelius. His Meditations is one of the most influential books to this day. One of the most influential books in Western philosophy. Emperors have read it, kings have read it, tech CEOs have read it, presidents have read Marcus Aurelius. The gym bro that won't shut up about Stoicism? Yeah, he's read Meditations. He's more famous now by sheer volume of people than he was when he was alive. He tried so hard not caring about legacy that he accidentally created one of the greatest legacies. Even when a Roman tried not caring about his legacy, he was remembered because you can't escape your own culture. So yeah, Rome was thinking about you. Yes, you specifically. They were also thinking about me. They were thinking about everyone. You don't get remembered by accident. You get remembered by building something so good, it can't be forgotten. Something so permanent, so undeniable that the future has no choice but to keep it. Rome didn't fall. It just changed addresses into your mind. And honestly, I bet they'd be thrilled about that. Go forth, go build a legacy, and siege the day.